Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Apologies for the delay in starting this webinar. You have joined What's New on the NRCNA, the National Resource Center on Nutrition and Aging's online portal. My name is Uche Akabandu, and I'll be speaking and leading this webinar today. I work here at Meals on Wheels America as the Director of Project Management and Impact in our new Strategy and Impact Department. The National Resource Center is one of the resources that is free and available to all Meals on Wheels America members, and I'm happy twice a year to share insights on this portal as to what is new and how you can take advantage of the wonderful resources that it offers. Before we get started, I want to share with you a few webinar tips. We recommend that you listen to the webinar over your computer speakers. Please note that your microphone or telephone will be muted, but you can still ask us questions throughout the webinar. And I'll show you how on this next slide. So, using the questions box on the control panel, you can access this panel by clicking on the orange button on the upper right of your screen to show or hide the panel, and then type your questions in the questions box and press send. This makes sure that we hear from you and are able to address any questions you have throughout this 30-minute webinar. So, just a little roadmap as to where we're headed today. This webinar will share with you a little bit about who's on the National Resource Center on Nutrition and Aging team here at Meals on Wheels America, tell you a bit about our project history, a tour of the website. Specifically, I'll be talking about what we call the primary and secondary aspects of the site, in addition to more dynamic or ever-changing sections of the site. I'll tell you about hidden and not so hidden gems that you can access on the National Resource Center, and tell you about sections that you should pay attention to because they have information that can be incredibly valuable. I'll share with you also during this call what's next for the National Resource Center as we head into the end of this year and into next, as well as wrap this up and give a call to action of how you can move forward with your use of this wonderful resource. So first, I'd like to invite you to participate in our first poll. These polling questions give us an opportunity to hear from you and keep everyone engaged during the webinar. Great, and the poll is, how did you hear about the NRCNA? Please take a second to respond. Great. Thank you so much for your participation in this first poll. Love to be able to share the results as they come in, giving you a few seconds to complete polling, and then we will share the results with you. Great. So the results are about 91% of you said that you've heard about the NRCNA through Meals on Wheels America, and about 9% saying that they heard from the Administration for Community Living. Great. Thank you so much, Hannah. We'll move on to the remainder of the webinar. So just a quick reminder as to where we're headed in our call today in terms of learning about the different aspects of the National Resource Center, and then let's jump in together. So these are the members that form the National Resource Center team here at Meals on Wheels America: Linda Netterville, Magda Hageman-Apple, as well as myself. So anytime you submit questions via the National Resource Center's question box, or you have any questions at all about the resources, or you have resources you would like to share with us, please feel free to reach out to Linda, Magda, and myself. So a little bit about the history of this site. We are able to host the National Resource Center through a cooperative agreement with the Administration for Community Living, Administration on Aging. The primary goal of the NRCNA is to develop the future readiness of the nutrition and aging services field. Our goal always is to provide contemporary, cutting-edge resources that you can use to strengthen your program, better position your program in the marketplace, and be the best nutrition and aging services providers that you can be. The National Resource Center is designed to strengthen your capacity to provide the services for both current generation of older adults and future population as well. One of the goals that's increasingly popular and of interest to us here is integrating the aging network into the home and community-based service system, as well as working with our healthcare partners, and ultimately we support Meals on Wheels America's goal to provide training and technical assistance to all members of the aging network specific to nutrition services. So we are striving always to make improvements to the site. I wanted to give some of you who may not know, this is what our site used to look like before we modernized it. This was supported by funding we received from the Walmart folks. And with input from the network, our desire always to provide cutting edge and future ready information, we contemporize the site to its current state, which many of you might be familiar with. Again, this is more cutting edge and contemporary in its design, easy to access, user friendly. We also have it such that it's available on a mobile site now, so you're able to access the National Research Center while you're on the go using a tablet or phone, and the site has been optimized to make it easy to use. So we invite you to seek out this resource wherever you are, at the office, on the go. We're here to support your work. So before we get started, I'd love to hear from you again through our second poll. Hannah, please take it away.
Great. And my question is, how often do you use the NRCNA online library? Please take a second to answer our poll. Great. Thank you, everyone, for taking time to answer our poll. It looks like 38% said every 6 months, and 63% said once a year or less.
Great, Hannah, thank you so much. That information is so helpful as I go through the site with you. Our hope always is to familiarize you with the site so that you can identify information that can be useful to you so that you can use it more and more. The site is huge, as you will come to find, and so for this webinar, what I will be doing is toggling between my presentation here and the actual site itself as well, so we can walk through it together. So first off, I'd like to call your attention to what we call the primary section of the NRCNA landing page and site. So this is that top bar highlighted in this red text and this wonderful yellow star to indicate the primary sections of the site. This includes our resource collections on nutrition, food, and health, our public policy resource collections, information that you will find on training, and a whole other bucket of resources called resources. All right, so I'm going to jump out of the presentation here now for the moment and go to the website. Excellent. So now at the National Research Center site, looking at these primary areas, I'd like to look at them one at a time. So looking at the nutrition, food, and health, you will see that under this are several other categories of resources. These include nutrition and food resources, general health information, resources that you can find about physical and mental wellness, and this includes social isolation and loneliness research. In addition to another section, what we call the parallel systems of nutrition and health. This is an attempt for us to look at the intersectionality of healthcare, home and community-based, aging, and other public health systems that all work together to support the health and nutrition of seniors. And if you click into any of these resource areas, you're able to find specific resources that are dedicated to these topic areas. You see the topic area at the top, a little bit of introductory text, in addition to resources that you can go ahead and click on. And you can see that we provide quite regularly updates to these sections that you can look at what's new. Anytime information emerges, we can provide that information for you. In the public policy bucket, there are other resources categorized by these in the drop-down menu. We have information on advocacy, description of the aging networks, reports and analyses as they relate to public policy, insights into regulations, instructions, and standards that senior nutrition programs can take advantage of, and glossaries. There's so many terms out there that we'd like to put these together for you here and have done so. So for instance, looking at the aging network, clicking into that, we can see some additional introductory text and then find specific information particularly related to work at the federal and state levels, as listed here. I'm going to do a deeper dive into the training and resources sections later on, but note that this top panel here has the lion's share of information that you would be interested in to access for the National Research Center. I'm clicking back to the landing page so that we can start there as we move forward to other sections of the site. But in general, fairly basic landing page. There is a dynamic section of the site, as you can see here. The secondary sections include the About Us, FAQs, events sections, in addition to this area of resources underneath the slideshow. As we scroll down, there's a little bit of information about the Resource Center. We talk a little bit about the host and sponsor of the site, and you can see there's a section here also on what's new on the National Research Center. We'll be getting to these sections going forward. All right, back into the presentation. And onwards now to what I'm calling a little bit about inside scoop. This is a little bit of insight for you on some of the not so hidden treasures within the National Resource Center. And this is, as I alluded to before, our training section that includes so much information. And I think this is where you might find that you spend most of your time as you come to the National Resource Center site. This includes a repository we have about the Meals on Wheels America pre-conference workshops. We also have another highlighted information here, the archived webinars and training resource center, in addition to our health calendar. So these are not so hidden treasures, but treasures that I would like to call out for your attention nonetheless. Let's jump in and have a look at what they have for you. All right, getting back to the actual site under the training section. So if you're interested in learning more about the pre-conference workshops, perhaps you attended them at conference, maybe you didn't, rest assured that you can come to this section of the National Research Center and access these resources. This is for our 2016 pre-conference. You're able to go down, look at the different presenters. Here we have YouTube videos for you, in addition to a little bit about each of the presenters. In addition, you can download their presentations, so you can revisit this information and go back to it as many times as you would like. Looking for information from 2015, looking for information from 2014. No worries, you're able to access all of those resources with regards to the pre-conference workshop here. Similarly, you will find a listing of the different presenters, YouTube videos associated with their presentations at conference, in addition to links to their presentations. Also in the training bucket, you can look at webinars that you might have missed. Each of these are associated with what we call a toolkit. And for each of these toolkits, you have access to what was discussed during the webinar, a brief description, some of the learning objectives, a statement of who the presenters were. You're able to access handouts, audio recordings, in addition to other resources that may have been discussed during the webinar and other resources that we find out in the wide world that can support your learning in this area. So this archived webinars and training resource area is really a key and critical part of the site. We invite you to attend as many webinars as you can, but should you miss them, rest assured that you're able to come back here, access each of these toolkits, and find the information that you would need. All of them are consistent in their layout in that you have access to handouts, audio recordings, and additional resources, some of which were mentioned during the webinar, and others were added here too, just to support your learning. Lastly, I invite you to look at our health calendar. Several times a year, the National Research Center partners with other federal agencies and academic researchers to provide you cutting-edge information about intersections between nutrition and health. For instance, we're looking forward to next year's National Nutrition Month. The new logo and image statement is putting your best foot forward. We will be partnering likely with a federal partner to provide you insights as to how to leverage this campaign to support nutrition work that you do at your program. You can look at past observances in terms of health for Older Americans Month, National Nutrition Month, and usually in September we highlight Emergency Preparedness Month or food safety as well. All right, back to the presentation. Talking about some of the secondary sections of the National Resource Center page, really standard. You can go to information about us and look through some frequently asked questions, explore what we have available to you in terms of data and research, and look at current events. We talked a little bit about the healthcare calendar already and the webinars we have available to you. The About Us section is really critical. While you're in there, I know it seems like you already know about us, about Meals on Wheels America, and perhaps the Administration on Aging, as some of you noted. But I invite you to click here on that page. This is the key initiatives and publications. In this site is a plethora of information, a truly hidden gem on the National Resource Center page. Let's go there really quickly so I can show that to you. From the main website, click on About Us, click on Key Initiatives and Publications, and voila, you have landed in a listing of our major initiatives. If you click then on the proceedings of the Nutrition and Aging, a national summit, this takes you to a summit that was held several years ago, but now this portal houses all the information from this event. You're able to access a plethora of recordings from the general session, in addition to downloads and perspectives from this training, keynote sessions, different presentations from some of our Meals on Wheels members, as well as notable researchers in the area of nutrition and aging. This information, yes, was uploaded in 2012, but so much of it has bearing to the work that we do now, looking at critical trends in a changing world, new challenges and opportunities. This is a great place to leverage insights, innovations, and promising practices for your program. Back to our presentation, moving forward, I want you to pay attention to the dynamic section of the National Resource Center site. This is the section that tends to change on the site. We have different aspects of information that we like to highlight, and so I invite you to continue to look here to learn more about ongoing and new initiatives. Some of the not-so-hidden treasures on the National Resource Center site that live in our resources area include promising practices, such as those noted earlier, and client education materials. I will take a moment and get into this information shortly. Mindful of time, I wanted to proceed a little bit with the rest of the presentation and tell you a little bit about what's next for the National Resource Center. We have all kinds of information needs as we go forward, needs of our network for cutting-edge information on business acumen, and perhaps resource centers on food as medicine, as interest in those areas begin to grow. So we will plan to add these content collections to the National Resource Center, build out our Spanish and other language resources, and continue to contemporize the portal to maximize your experience. So I want to take a moment at this time just to jump back into the National Resource Center site and show you some of those promising practices as noted here. You're able to go here and look at some of the innovations that are happening across the Aging Network and find some of our own Meals on Wheels America members as noted here. In addition, under resources, please note that we have client education materials that you can share with the folks that you serve. This is a new initiative that has come out, really focused on clients' ability to understand their risk of isolation and loneliness. I invite you to look at this new research here, in addition to things that we need to know about the dietary guidance, as well as toolkits from past webinars and other information that's relevant to seniors, such as financial information here. All right, before we end, I'd invite you to participate in our third and final poll. This poll is critical to help us understand how you can use this resource going forward.
Thanks, Uche. The question is, how likely are you to use the NRCNA online library now that you've completed this webinar?
Just a few more seconds and we'll close the poll. right, thank you for your responses.
Thanks, everyone. It looks like people are saying 19% says 1 to 2 times per week, 59% says 1 to 2 times per month, and 22% said every 6 months.
Great, thank you so much for your responses. Now what? I know what it's like listening to these webinars, and it's great to listen to them. The webinar ends and off we go to our busy days, but I invite you to make today a little bit different than every other day. How is this going to be different this time after you've listened to this webinar? What steps are you going to take to maximize your benefit from these resources that we've talked about today? So I challenge you to a little scavenger hunt. Everyone loves scavenger hunts. So in the time that follows after this webinar closes, I challenge you to review the site and identify a few archived webinars and see what resources are available for you. I also challenge you to look at a recently posted toolkit on combating social isolation for older adults. If you can find these resources and use them, then for sure this webinar has been incredibly effective and helpful for you. I challenge you to look for these resources and other resources and make today a different day in terms of participating in a webinar and using the information effectively. I thank you for your time and attention, and this is the time that you can share with us any questions that you have about the National Resource Center in terms of the information that's housed on there, how you can make use of it, other information you think that should be on there that you didn't see, and how we can leverage this site to best serve your needs. So please do roll on over to the chat box and enter in some questions so that you can get some answers from us. Great, thank you so much. We have our first question from the audience. The question is, how often we update resources on the National Resource Center site? Thank you for your question. The resources are updated every 2 to 3 days as information comes through to us and comes to our attention. We are constantly on the lookout for training, reports, and resources to make available to you. And I would guarantee you that every 2 to 3 days, if you check back to the site and look at the What's New section of the National Resource Center, you will find that there are, in fact, newly posted resources and toolkits and webinars and trainings. I invite you always to go to the Events section of the site and look at upcoming trainings. Look at the Archived Webinar section of the site to look at trainings you might have missed and some of the resources associated with them.
Great, thank you, Uche. We have another question. First starts out by saying we really appreciate all the information and thank you. The question is, do you have copies of state menu policies?
Ooh, that's a good question. We do have a resource that we should be making available to you more and more, but available on the Meals on Wheels America site through our Supporting Public Policy initiative that has a listing, a state-by-state listing of state nutrition policies, but not, and within that you will find policy around menus. So if you go to the Meals on Wheels America site and look at our research section, you will see our Retirement Research Foundation funded initiative on myth-busting, supporting greater public policy that has a map of the United States, a clickable map that you're able to click on each state and get access to its state nutrition policy. And in that you will find regulations regarding menus.
Thank you, Uche.
You have access to this training to the email addresses for the National Resource Center on Nutrition and Aging staff. I invite you to share any questions that you might have following this training with us, so we're happy and always aim to be responsive to the needs of our members and the public as a whole. Following this webinar, you will also be prompted to participate in an evaluation of today's training. Please do answer these questions. We use these questions to improve the training that we offer to you. If there are no additional questions, I would like to thank you so much for your time and attention. Thank you to my Meals on Wheels America colleagues who have helped staff today's webinar, and we look forward to talking to you again and soon. Have a great afternoon.